your brand and which material you're working with, the recycled one, and what is the reason? What is it due to the properties? Is it environmental reasons, or what else reasons you have chosen to work with this specific material? Rikke, would you like to start?
Yes, hello everyone. Yes, we do not actually work with one specific material. We supply materials for designers and developers, and we supply them with what we call new waste material. That's surplus materials from the industry, so it's actually waste materials. So it's all kinds of materials.
Yes, thank you. And we'll get back to you more later on.
Perfect.
Yes, great.
Hi, also good to be here today. So really it's all about upcycling of textiles. So that's the main resources. Our agenda is no waste future. We work with, you could say, innovation within textiles, also material innovation. So textile in our system is never going to be a textile anymore. It's going to be a fiber, and it's going to go into a composite product, acoustic felt, or a hardboard material. So that's what we do. We are also, by the way, owned by Kvadrat.
Okay, nice to meet you all. Wheelers make Danish designed furniture out of recycled materials, basically. We make furniture out of recycled plastic and recycled steel. Our chair is in the next room. We insist that our furniture are designed for disassembly. We have a take-back system, meaning we wish to have our furniture back when they are not supposed to. When the customer doesn't want them anymore for some reason, we take them back. We refurbish them. We resell them, and we make sure that all materials are made into new design chairs again and again.
Yes. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Stine Marie, and it's the wrong name up there, but
yes,
it's okay, she knows my name. And I'm from Flid Tools. We started back in 2020 March, a very nice time to start. We make hand tools from upcycled wood and leather from the production of Danish design chairs. And we started with hand tools, but now we're also making upcycled building kits. So we will send you the upcycled materials so you can build a stool, a bench, a rib, or anything that we design to you, so you actually get the materials delivered to your door as well. And everything started with being handy has no gender, making something beautiful never go out of fashion. So it's about creating and get to use your hands again, and definitely bring a new audience into the hardware store. It's a lot about monster truck, and we want to make Tesla. So yeah, thank you.
Yes. And then Jay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Well,
Okay.
could you also give us a short presentation of Emeko?
Definitely. Good morning. Thanks for having me. Emeko, we mostly make chairs in the US out of actually a range of recycled materials, but we're most known for aluminum. For us, we actually didn't necessarily choose aluminum. We actually had to use aluminum. Emeko started in World War II, and it was used as a chair for Navy ships. And the engineers really were working to make something that was really strong, lightweight, radar-proof for the submarines. And they also had this strong constraint of not having any readily available material in wartime. For us, aluminum was the best material because of strength to weight. You know, it's non-magnetic, and generally at that time it was fairly easy to manufacture. You know, like the processes were there. For the war effort, what they did was civilians would collect hubcaps and cans and aluminum objects, and then we'd be able to melt them down and produce the quantity, like thousands of Navy chairs that were needed at that time. You know, as this evolved from the 1940s on, it really became the Emeko ethos. You know, start using an existing waste stream and then see if you can turn that into a more durable, beautiful version of itself, starting with that initial aluminum.
Yes, thank you so much. Can this the sound volume be a bit louder, maybe a little higher for yeah, Jay? But thank you so much. And as you can hear, we have some very different materials. You guys work with a very broad material yeah, aspects here. So I think it's really nice to have these represented. So I would like to hear, like, how did you start the recycling journey? Like, what steps did you take when you were upon to start this recycling journey, and which challenges did you meet along the way? Could you, Vicky, could you? Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so basically I have a background from fashion industry. So obviously there's a huge issue there that textiles, after we have had the textile in our hands, belongs to nobody and are just piling up everywhere. So that was the first thing, to see there's a problem and it needs to be solved. The second thing is that textiles is a little bit of everything. It's a lot of different materials, and it's not easy to make textiles into new textiles again. So we had to kind of invent a new way of perceiving and reutilizing the resource. But textiles are also fibers and can be fiberized, and this is what they usually do in the recycle business. And then you get quite short fibers, and short fibers do not make good textiles at the end of the day. It's a downcycling process and not really of any validation, you could say. So we decided to go for the very short fibers and say, so let's make, you could say, an impact from having short fibers. And short fibers kind of communicates composites, because composites are always short fibers, or short or longer fibers. And fashion and lifestyle, furniture, interior goes pretty well hand in hand, was our first perception. So you could say the framework for really was actually from fashion to furniture. And then the whole endeavor started out by saying, so then what are we going to do? Okay, we're taking a waste resource. We want to create a circular material. We don't want to use any water in our process. We don't want to use any dye. So we're actually going to utilize the colors of the existing textiles, because we want to have a lower impact. And we need to kind of also make sure that we don't use any hazardous chemicals, because we are living in Denmark, and it is the REACH regulation that actually is we need to be accountable towards. So all these obstacles were put into place as a design exercise, and from there we actually built our materials. So today our materials really reflects the main colors of textiles on the global market. We have a blue, we have a white, we have a natural, and we have a gray. So that's not easy to make, but it's the easiest colors to make from existing colors. Our materials also is divided into different layers. So when we take back materials, we can put what becomes the next generation into one of the different layers. So we have actually designed the materials to also encounter what happens in the next life. So that's basically the idea, and everything we've done is built on existing technology that we have tweaked into being able to work with textiles. It sounds really easy, but it has actually been a journey of 10 years to get where we are, ramping up production so we can make the impact that we want, and we are, after all these years, launching our first product at Milan in 2017. We're just still on the verge of kind of getting into a much bigger loop. So it's easy to talk about. It's maybe just a little bit harder to do in reality.
Yes, exactly. And I was actually going to ask you, like, this journey has been long, because I know that it's not something that just occurred yesterday, and that's one of the challenges, that it actually takes time to work with recycling and get it to a level where it's actually able to become a product. So that's super interesting to hear. Thank you. What about you, Maria?
Wheelers is actually born circular. We hit the market back in 2017, and with a product portfolio of a daybed, a lounge bed, a dining table, a dining chair. But the main thing was that all of our furniture are made out of recycled material. We actually use this solid textile plate as the bottom of our daybed. And we also have an agreement that when our daybed are not supposed to live anymore, which be in many years, Vicky takes the plate back and make it into new solid textile boards again and again. And that's the same story with every material that we use in our furniture. Our latest dining chair is a chair made out of fishing nets. It's the color of the fishing nets. We don't add anything. It's important for us to keep the waste streams as pure as possible, as clean as possible, because in the end, we are supposed to make furniture that can be recycled. We have to think circular when we send out products into the world, instead of continuing making products that cannot be recycled, and it stays on landfills or being incinerated. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes?
I will go back to you talked about the experience. We're not that far ahead in Flid, but we have the products in very soon, in a few weeks. But it was really a tough thing to start. The industry was not really ready to start upcycling wood. Not a lot of people have done it before. And I won't mention any names that said they don't wanted us to be fat and rich by their company. So we kept on finding a very, very good partner, and I think some of them may be sitting here. Thanks to Takt, if somebody knows them, because they did it a new way in this area with wood. So they were ready to actually upcycle and recycle and understanding a new way of making furniture, and definitely with the wood. So it has been a long journey. It's not just about taking something up from the trash. It's a culture for the whole supply chain, or I would call it an ecosystem, because it is a system we have to be aware of. And definitely people on the floor, maybe the big people can sit and say, now we're gonna do this, but you have to get it in everywhere. And it takes time actually to understand how important it is to take something up, and you can actually make it into something beautiful and workable. And all these trees some of them are 200 years old, and they just cut it off and burn it. And more than 2,000 tons of tree wood waste get burned each year. So just where we work, so there can be so much upcycling with wood, and that's what we aim for in Flid. But it has been a challenge, and I understand for the industry it's easy for us to say we want to use it all, but it's small steps, and we started just with handles, and that's very small pieces. But we're there, and it comes to market.
Yes, thank you so much. And you can just put it there. So I mean, it's really nice to hear how some of you have been on this journey for a longer time, and some of you have just started. And I think it's just really important to say that it's really and it can be difficult and challenging, and also this mindset, as you said, how to change the industry. So Jay, would you also like to tell us about how you worked with recycling?
Yes, definitely. In our case, we work with when we have a material that does have an excess waste stream and it needs to be used. For example, when Coca-Cola originally approached us to work on the 111 Navy chair, it came up because there was this overwhelming issue of how many plastic PET bottles were going into landfills and oceans, especially here in the United States, where we have probably a bit more gluttonous of a culture than you guys. And our true ethos started with the idea that, you know, we need to start with a waste stream and go from there. We've been able to find suppliers that will work with us, and that as we work with them more and more, they begin to understand that we can't compromise in terms of the authenticity of that waste stream. You know, it's super important. The thing we've seen that's been difficult is like what Really was saying, you know, there's a much longer lead time and effort in order to make a brand new material, and to have it come from a waste stream rather than an existing channel. But, you know, at the end of the day for us, it really ends up paying off, because you end up with this huge knowledge base and a lot more know-how about that specific material, and it ends up applying to the next product, to the next material we work on. A lot of issues people assume come with recycled materials actually aren't there as much as you think. You know, we have, at least for us, we haven't seen cleanliness issues, durability issues, and availability of material haven't shown up as issues and problems. What we've seen actually is once you really solidify your own supply chain, you have way more ownership and control over it, and you're able to work with it in ways you otherwise might not be able to. You know, when we work on these materials, we put it out in the world, and then we know we can make it better, and we constantly iterate to make it better. Part of that is, you know, as environmentalists, we know that there's constant improvement to be made, and it's our responsibility to actually go after those improvements. And the second thing is, it's really great to be able to watch a waste stream come in and iterate it to the point of being circular. And where we are now at Emeko, where we can take back our materials and recycle them and mold the same product, it's very rewarding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you have a lot of important points. So I mean, some of you touch already upon this with the design challenges within, I mean, recycled materials. I know, Vicky, what are some of the design challenges you have met when working with your material?
I think there is actually a distinction in between working with a material and working with a piece of design, and I think that we have to put this in order. Working with the material is an engineer job where you have to take a deep dive into what is the potential properties of a certain material. I think one of our issues is actually in my company is that we are not a furniture industry. We are not an architect. We are engineers, we have a lot of textile knowledge, but to utilize the material into a new product, you need to understand what is actually demanded of that particular market. And I think that is really sometimes quite difficult, because designers do not necessarily work with materials, but they are, you know, preoccupied with materials, and they're also depending on good materials, and vice versa. And these kind of collaborative efforts does not really exist so much. So, for example, us reaching out to a big design industry and asking them, could we join forces? Could we develop something together? You know, design industry does not necessarily have the needed resources to go into that kind of development. And that is why Vilas, for example, often will have to lift a relatively big burden for all of us, being a young company, but also challenging kind of the world around them. So I think the one thing I see is that we know there's a P called people and profit and planet, but we underestimate the power of partnerships within industries and the different, you could say, actors in there. And I think that is something that is really, really needs to be orchestrated to go to the scale we need to go to.
Yes, excellent. Yes, of course. We have some time for you as well.
Thank you. When we hit the market back in 2017, we tried to target retailers, but they weren't really there. So I told my great story about all of my furniture made out of recycled material, and in the end it's just, do you have a table with insert plates? No, I don't, and thank you for listening, bye. So it's also about having customers understanding what we are doing. It's not just the furniture, it is. And you are supposed to be able to compete on quality and design. If you don't have that, you don't have anything. It's also about customers choosing when they are in a retail store with a lot of other plastic furniture, for instance. Our chair is standing there next to all the other plastic chairs, but it has a much better story. With climate changes and everything, when you recycle plastic, you have a huge benefit. Our rum chair saves the environment 82% CO2 emissions compared to a chair made out of virgin plastic. That's a thing. And I think back in 2017, we weren't really there. Also, the fact when we made this chair made out of fishing net first, that was a door opener because people had seen pictures of turtles with straws out of their noses. We have seen seals lying on the beaches tangled in fishing nets. That was a door, for us, it was a door opener for the retail market, but definitely also with architects.
You don't have to, yeah, it's fine. Well, I mean, that actually leads me forward to my next question, and this is about the communication of the work you do within circular economy. So how do you actually communicate to the end consumers, and do you try to educate them within these various terms we work with within a circular economy? Here you go.
If I can start.
Of course.
And I think what you were talking about, Maria, is very interesting, because when you are a new brand, as we are, and you, going to retailers is very hard, but also challenging in a way of like, do they tell the right story? And I think that's what you're saying. How are you communicating? If I put my hammer out in a store, and they tell it's recycle or it's something, they don't know the real story. They will communicate it wrong. So taking it back to sell it yourself on your own webpage and go out to people, it's so important, because we want to tell the right story. It's just not sustainable. Like, you know, when you see big brands that just say sustainable, and what is sustainable? Like, we really want to talk about what kind of glue, if there is a glue, what kind of metal is it, what kind of wood is it, where does the wood come from, and all these things. And I think it's just a lot to handle over to a retailer. Like, who's gonna tell that story when they touch my product next to a plastic hammer? And I understand why people ask me, why should I pay 300 crowns for your hammer, and I can buy it in IKEA for, you can get 5 tools for 80 crowns. I understand why people can maybe ask that, but they can't get the whole story. But you will never ask that to Noma when they did their cheeseburger and ask, why doesn't it cost 10 crowns as McDonald's? Mm-hmm. So that's, yeah, we need to tell the story as long as some of the other brands, yeah.
Could I also, yeah, of course, and
quick.
then we'll get to you, Jay, in a second, yes.
That's actually why we have started working with blockchain technology. Because when our chair is in a retailer, it will actually be able to talk to the customer. So you can hold your phone close to our chair. In the future, we haven't put this little chip into it yet. And the chair will actually be able to tell the story about where the plastic is sourced. Is it from North Sea, from Faroe Islands, and where is the steel from? How much of it is from recycled material? And also, the customers will also be able to see their footprint. How much CO2 have they? So that's an important technology to be able to work with completely transparency compared to all the other furniture in the market.
Before we move on to you guys, where you're the physical ones here, I would also like to hear from you, Jay, like about this topic that we're talking about right now.
Yeah, actually, as you guys are talking, I realize how little control we have over what you communicate, and it's reminding me of so many more things. But, you know, at Emeko, what we really believe is that we're all environmentalists trying to do the right thing. We're surfers, runners, outdoor people. Actually, my dad will be picking me up in about 3 hours to go surfing. So, you know, like we really care about the world and want to do right by it. And a huge piece of that is exactly what you guys are talking about, is making sure it's transparent and clear. So we actually launched last year our carbon footprinting calculator. So the same thing, you know, like we really believe marking how much a footprint a product has is going to help educate the consumer and help them kind of start to be able to evaluate what the better choices are. All of our communication ends up being around two things, you know, how do we educate consumers that there are better choices to be made and make this an active conversation? And then also, how do we educate other companies that, you know, there are better choices to be made? And the more people that join in this, you know, using waste material and using recycled material streams, the more waste streams that get used, which is kind of the end goal. It is hard, you know, we try not to make it be a bragging thing, because we know that, you know, we're manufacturers at the end of the day. We're trying to tread lightly, but we can always do better. So it's, for us, what we constantly talk about and work on, and we're by no means perfect, is, you know, like, how do we communicate enough that consumers can be educated and other manufacturers can be inspired, but we're not talking so much that it ends up actually undermining the work that we've done. And there's a super fine line there in sustainability.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because, I mean, what I hope is that you guys can be an inspiration source for how other brands can communicate their work with circularity. And of course, there is this fine lining from not ending up in the greenwashing area, which is a very fine lining. And I think that end consumers have difficulty in figuring out who is actually honest and who is actually just saying these stuff to
I just have a comment for that. I think growing up with the fashion industry, where you have been talking about sustainability in many years and not doing a lot, I think it's the framework of sustainability that is very unclear. And I think, for my sakes, it's really about what agenda within the sustainability, you could say, continuum are we actually writing here? Because there are multiple agendas in there. There's an eco agenda, there's a resource agenda, there's a recycling agenda, and that you cannot hit every agenda in one shot. So perfection does not exist. And I think that's really something we need to overcome. And I think also in the design industry, we are too good at nagging each other about what do you do and it's not good enough and you do not cover that area. And so what is your take-back system for a tabletop in Spain? You know, that's the kind of question I got. Because okay, so is that, if I don't have an existing take-back system for a tabletop in Spain, does that actually count me out of the game? Is that where we are? And I think that's really something we should look each other in the eye and say, okay, we are doing recycling of resources. That's our agenda. We use energy doing that because it cannot be done without energy. I'm sorry. We are looking for new energy solutions, obviously, but it's very difficult to be a small company establishing a big production, investing in a windmill or solar power day one. It's all a matter of climbing a staircase and getting wiser from every step we go. And I think That's where I like Vilas, because it's about transparency. It's about being honest about what do we do, and then there's stuff we don't do.
Yes, and you're absolutely right. You need to like choose your, choose the elements that you want to focus until, I mean, you can climb the staircase to the end, but that will take lots of time and years. So, but now I would actually like to bring you in, Rikke, founder at the Upcycle, and could you introduce, well, I mean, you already did that, but what a bit more now that you've also heard the other ones, what would you like to say more about the Upcycle?
Yeah, well, what I hear you say as well is is this word partnerships. That being circular or doing good in this world while we do new solutions and new products is all about working together and testing and trying and learning together. So and what we do is that we supply designers and developers with new waste materials. So that's waste and surplus materials from the industries. It could be offcuts from the kitchen industry, where you're going to have your sink or where you're going to have your stove. You will always have a cutout that someone else can use. So we are the dating agency to connect the materials between industries and into new development. Because you cannot be circular on your own. No one can. And that's what I hear you guys say too, that someone has got the material, someone else needs it, someone's got the technology, someone else can use it, someone's got experience. So it's all about working together and then going back to materials. I come from the design industry as well, and in my opinion, and I really like it, because we have to go back to materials, we have to go back to craftsmanship. As you say as well, it's craftsmanship, and everything has to start with materials in order to save the resources. So I really like it, actually, because in my opinion, maybe that's what Denmark is really good at. And it is, of course, an extra complexity to put on design and development, to start with materials, like saying, what have we got? Before you say, what is it going to look like, or how is it going to function, you have to say, what have we got? What can we base this new product on? And I really like that kind of thinking and that skill set, because I believe that we are really good at this. Also, in order to bring Denmark back in front on the design scene, to compete with other nations and other countries, to put materials first and to cooperate. That's really nice, I think. And just one thing is, like, what we got in our material database is materials from the industries, but it's always continuity, so it's material that keeps coming. It's never just, 10 used windows or something like that. So you can always, when you have developed your product, you can count on it to keep coming, and then it always has a sort of uniformity, so you can also count on the uniformity. Yeah, I think that was it.
Yeah, excellent. So you basically give easy access to companies that want to work with surplus materials. And I think you have definitely seen that the demand is higher than when you started.
Yeah. Just very interesting you talked about with the designers. I'm an industrial designer, so yeah, we also see that we should be taught more about the material and not only about designing, because that's, it comes to what can the material do and what do we want it to do. And we work so closely with our partners that he is, with our metal, he's actually helping us designing it the right way from the start, instead of us drawing whatever we want, and also just it should fit into the right way of producing it from start, instead of us demanding a specific design language. Of course, that has something, it has to be beautiful and appealing for the eyes, but I would have dreamed about from start, learned much more about materials from the start, and that's where we should start as designer, and what they can give us, instead of us giving them shape and giving them criteria to work around. So that's what we use now, and we are very humble that our partners let us ask them questions and let us get the experience of actually how to do it right from the start. And we should push it into the schools with materials.
Yeah, you're so right. Yeah, but
we went
totally
to the same school.
Yes,
so.
exactly. So I mean, I was thinking also about like the business aspect of all of this. Like, how do you actually make the wheels go around economically wise? Do you have any thoughts on that? And Jay, I don't know if you would like to start on this.
Definitely. I think it's tough because, like what's being said, you have to start with a product that is, if people are doing a side-by-side comparison to a chair made out of virgin material on the market, it has to be better looking, so they like it better, has to be more durable, and it has to be about cost equal. And for us, at least, what we've seen in a lot of these projects, it comes down to someone, stamping a yes or no on how much it's going to cost when they order chairs. And for us, what we have to prove out in order to make recycled materials work is that we're able to get it to the point of where virgin materials are, and then even better. I think when you use a recycled material and you talk about it, people are just looking to pick it apart any way possible. So the minute they see any kind of issue, you're done. And I think for us, what we've seen is we just have to be better in all categories in order for it to work well. And I know that's a tough answer. And of course, we see times where it's not possible across the board, especially for us. We won't compromise on design or durability, but cost, it can be more expensive. But just working on trying to get every metric better than it would be if it were made out of a virgin material.
Yeah, and that's definitely tough to. It's a tough competition, at least for now. Do you guys have anything on the economical or the yes?
Yeah, I will just say that in a way it's a bit tough luck that now it's the design industry and the architecture industry who has to be in front, like again and again, to drive this change. But when we have the industries behind us supporting us with materials, I would say that there's no industry so ready to make a change as an industry making money. And when you guys do the development and the design using these new waste materials, then they make money, and then things starts rolling. So tough luck in a way that the design industry have to be in front again and do this front running to make the whole business running. But then we can actually change the hard industry behind us, making money out of waste instead of spending money on waste.
Yes.
Also having a take-back system means that we in the future will have our own waste streams. So we don't need to have cost for materials when we produce new design chairs again.
I have a few comments to this. I think we have an illness in our society that is communicating that everything has to be very cheap. And that's a widely spread illness, because if an item you buy has no cost, it has no value. And this is how we treat resources today. I also have the feeling that the complex system is adding cost to everything. Everybody has to earn something in a system. The textile industry has to earn something, the producers has to earn something, the retailers, the design company, everybody. And it's just adding cost, and it's always about a percentage. And obviously a percentage of nothing is nothing, but a percentage of 10,000 is a lot. So I think there is a way we need to change the economic system of our businesses, to be honest, because it is more expensive to be sustainable. It is uncomparably more expensive than the cheap stuff we get out there, because it's whole new systems that has to be aligned. It's new supply chains. It's new ways of sorting out waste that is not existing at this moment because there is no business model, because nobody is going to pay a lot for waste. So there's a lot of things out there that we need to establish. And it might influence how much percentage-wise we earn from an item. But it might not necessarily earn the kroner and øre amount you earn. So it's really about thinking, how can we simplify you could say, the supply chain of sustainability to grow sustainability. And I think this is one of the things that I'm quite preoccupied with now, because we need to get that fixed, everybody.
Yes, great. We have now some time, if you guys have any questions. Now's the time to raise your hand, but I don't know if you're sitting with a question and thinking like, I have to ask this, or no? Yeah? Can I? Yes, well, I'm going to repeat the question so also Jay can hear it. So, yeah, now the question was, how would you, sorry?
Elaborating on how ideas and how to simplify.
Yes, so the question is basically to Vicky and how to elaborate and simplify this whole, value chain.
Yeah, I have very specific idea of my own system, but I think also there is this idea that everybody has to have a certain percentage. So I live in a system which is a Kvadrat system. It's actually a sales company. It's also a product development company, but it's not a production company, even though Kvadrat owns quite a lot of their production today. So the sales mindset is you get a percentage, some kind of percentage when you sell something. That needs to change. Maybe it's an incentive instead you get, or it's a license to sell, or it's it's a fee, a royalty. We could think it in different ways, because if we keep on building the old system onto something that needs to do something different, I think we are gonna default. So. It's also about collaborating closer with your, usually you have a producer when you do things. You have a producer and you're a company, you're an R&D company. So maybe you need to merge these two together to become kind of one company in regards of that particular product. So you are collaborating in more ways than just being, I'm a designer, you're the producer. And we're just having a project under the EU Design Directive that's coming up on textiles and furnitures. That's going to be super interesting. Have two parties down here, they can talk more about it, where we're actually bringing in designers and producers to have an open talk about how can future design look. And I think that is new, because the producers are usually waiting for the designer to come with a outlay concept, and then there's a deal in between there, and everybody is watching to get the best deal out of that situation. So that's not really co-creating, isn't it? Is it? No, it's not. So it's really difficult to open up for these open discussions, because we all have our agenda. I need to earn, you need to earn, but we have to step out of that. At the end of the day, we all need to earn, but we also need to become more sustainable. So it's, yeah.
Yes, and I can see time is running. We're running out of time. So, do you have any short, just a short closing words?
Oh, yeah, but it was just very interesting that you talk about it. And I think maybe some customers or people don't understand, when you do a business, you have more businesses in it. It's not just you designing or developing a product. You actually work really closely with materials, but you're also selling, so you have more kind of companies. And that's the thing, that we take it back and control it. But what you said, I just realized the system doesn't work anymore. We have to change the other end as well to fit to sustainability, or the new way of actually be transparent and talk about this. And it's really hard. We're a startup. It's super hard to do everything, but we have to, so people understand what we are doing. And I think it's the same for you, right, Maria? It's super hard.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was the end.
That's
hard.
the closing words. It's super hard.
It's super hard, but it's also super cool.
Yeah.
Worth it.
Yes. It's totally worth it. Well, I would like to thank you guys for giving us all these great thoughts you have on the subject, and for you guys for coming. So that's it for this talk, and there will be more talks during the days. And of course, if you haven't seen the exhibition, the Circular Furniture Days, we have 47 Danish companies exhibiting out here some circular ideas and products. So check it out if you have the time. Thank you for coming.